The deep space research vessel Aurora Dawn hung silently in the black, orbiting a small, mist-covered planet far beyond the edge of known human space. Inside the ship, the air hummed with quiet tension. Everyone on board knew this was a historic moment. Humanity's first official meeting with the Varel, a peaceful alien species that had reached out across the stars with open minds and open hands. Lieutenant Daniel Brooks stood near the main observation window, his hands clasped behind his back. He wasn't a soldier, not really. He was a xenolinguist, trained to understand alien languages, gestures, and cultures. But today he felt more like a diplomat or maybe a test subject. He wore a clean white uniform, no weapons, no armor, just calm and steady breathing. Beside him, Dr. Lisa Monroe adjusted the settings on a small neural monitor strapped to her wrist. She was a neuroscientist, one of the best in the fleet, and she'd spent the last 6 months studying everything known about Varel telepathy. "They don't speak like we do," she said softly, not looking at him. "They share thoughts directly. A touch is enough. 1 second of contact and they'll know your name, your fears, maybe even your favorite song." Daniel nodded. "And they'll know I'm nervous." "Probably," Lisa said with a small smile. "But that's okay. Honesty is part of trust." The ship's captain, Elena Ruiz, walked into the room. She was calm, sharp-eyed, and carried herself like someone who'd made tough calls before, and would again. "The Varel shuttle has docked," she announced. "They're waiting in Bay 3. Protocol says only 3 of us go in, you, me, and Lisa, no weapons. No shields. Just us," Daniel swallowed. "Understood." They walked through the quiet corridors of the Aurora Dawn, past blinking consoles and crew members who watched them with wide eyes. No one had ever done this before. First contact wasn't just a mission, it was a leap into the unknown. Bay 3 was sealed with a wide circular door that hissed open as they approached. Inside, the air felt cooler, almost electric. Standing in the center of the room was a single Varel. It was taller than a human with smooth iridescent skin that shimmered like oil on water. Its limbs were long and graceful and its face had no mouth, just 2 large dark eyes that seemed to glow faintly from within. It didn't move as they entered. It simply waited. Captain Ruiz stepped forward first. "I am Captain Elena Ruiz of the Earth vessel Aurora Dawn. We come in peace." The Varel tilted its head slightly. Then without sound, a voice filled their minds, not loud, not harsh, but clear, like a whisper inside a quiet room. "We are Zaylan of the Varel Concord. We greet you with open thought." Lisa's monitor beeped softly. "It's broadcasting on a low-frequency telepathic band," she murmured. "Just like the file said." Zaylan's gaze shifted to Daniel. It took a slow step forward, raising one slender hand. The gesture was unmistakable, an offer to connect. Daniel looked at Captain Ruiz. She gave a small nod. He stepped forward and reached out. Their fingers touched. For a split second, nothing happened. Then, a flood of images, sounds, and feelings crashed into Daniel's mind. He saw oceans under violet skies, heard songs made of light, felt the quiet joy of 1,000 minds thinking together in harmony. It was beautiful, overwhelming, too much, and then something else. Deep in the rush of alien thought, Daniel felt a flicker, something old, something buried. A memory that wasn't his. A child crying in the dark. A voice saying, "You're not alone." A flash of a ruined city. Towers broken like bones. He tried to pull away, but it was too late. At the same moment, Jalen screamed. It wasn't a sound made with a mouth, it was a raw, tearing burst of pure mental agony that echoed through the room like a sonic wave. The Varel's eyes flared bright white, its body stiffened, and then it collapsed to the floor, twitching. Alarms blared. Red lights flashed. "Medical team to Bay 3, Captain Ruiz shouted into her comm. Lisa dropped to her knees beside Jalen, scanning frantically with her device. "Neural overload! His brain it's like it's short-circuited." Daniel stumbled back, clutching his head. His vision swam. His ears rang. He could still feel the echo of that scream inside his skull, sharp and cold. "What happened?" he gasped. "I don't know," Lisa said, her voice tight with fear. "But it came from you, or through you." Outside the bay, boots pounded on metal as security officers rushed in. Chief Ryan Holt, broad-shouldered and grim-faced, pushed past them. He looked at Daniel, then at the convulsing alien, and his expression hardened. Brooks, he said sharply. What did you do? I didn't do anything, Daniel insisted, his voice shaking. I just touched him. Ryan didn't look convinced. He turned to Captain Ruiz. We need to isolate him now. Captain Ruiz held up a hand. Not yet. We don't know what happened, but we will. On the floor, Jalen's trembling slowed. His eyes closed. His breathing grew shallow but steady. He was alive but unconscious. Meanwhile, the Varel shuttle outside went dark, all lights extinguished. No signals. No response. It was as if the entire ship had shut down in fear. Back on the Aurora Dawn, silence fell over the crew. The historic first contact had ended in disaster, and no one knew why. Daniel sat on a bench, head in his hands. He kept replaying the moment of contact. The beauty. The terror. And that strange buried memory, where had it come from? It felt real. Too real, Lisa sat beside him. Your brain activity spiked right before Zalen collapsed, she said quietly. Not just normal human levels. Something extra. What does that mean? I don't know, she admitted. But I think your mind isn't just yours. Daniel didn't answer. He stared at his own hand, the one that had touched the alien. It looked normal, human, but now he wasn't so sure. Outside the ship, the stars burned cold and distant. And somewhere in the void, something ancient had just stirred. In the days after the incident, the Aurora Dawn drifted in uneasy silence. The Varel shuttle remained dark, its systems offline, its crew unreachable. No messages came through, no demands, no threats, just stillness. That worried Captain Ruiz more than anger would have. Daniel Brooks was confined to his quarters, not as a prisoner, but as a precaution. Chief Ryan Holt posted 2 guards outside his door, more for his protection than to keep him in, or so Ryan claimed. Daniel didn't argue. He spent his time staring at the wall, replaying the moment Jalen touched him. He kept seeing flashes, a silver river under twin moons, a woman singing in a language with no words, the smell of rain on stone that didn't exist on any human world. Dr. Lisa Monroe visited him every few hours. She brought neural scans, food, and quiet questions. Tell me again what you felt, she said one evening, sitting cross-legged on the floor beside his bunk. I felt peace, Daniel said slowly, like being wrapped in warm light. Then something else pushed through, like a shadow under the water. And then Jalen screamed. Lisa tapped her datapad. Your brain showed activity in regions we don't usually use. Not just memory centers, areas linked to instinct, to ancient survival patterns. Almost like your mind recognized something older than language, older than humans, maybe older than anything we know. That night, Daniel dreamed of a child running through a burning city. The sky was red. The air tasted like metal. Someone, his mother, shoved him into a pod and whispered, forget, survive. Then darkness. He woke gasping, sweat soaking his shirt. The next morning, Lisa returned with new data. Jalen woke up for 3 minutes, she said, voice low. He was disoriented, but he spoke one word over and over. What word? Echo, Daniel frowned. What does that mean? In Varel, it's not just a sound bouncing back. It means a memory that walks, a ghost of thought. They believe some minds leave ripples in the universe long after they're gone. Daniel's stomach twisted. You think I'm carrying one? I think something in you triggered Jalen's fear response so hard it nearly killed him. And I need to know why. She led him to the medical bay under guard. Ryan followed, arms crossed, eyes sharp. In the lab, Lisa hooked Daniel to a series of sensors. Just relax. Think about the moment of contact. Let your mind go where it wants. Daniel closed his eyes. At first, nothing. Then a voice. Not his, not human. Soft, ancient, humming a tune without notes. Images bloomed behind his eyelids. Vast libraries carved into asteroids. Ships shaped like seeds drifting between galaxies. A council of beings made of light debating whether to hide or fight. Then pain. A great tearing. A warning. They are coming. Daniel jerked upright, gasping. There's a war, he whispered. A war no one remembers. Lisa stared at her screen. Your theta waves just matched a frequency recorded near the edge of the Andromeda Galaxy, 50 years ago. A signal we never understood. Ryan stepped forward. This is getting dangerous. He's not just remembering things, he's receiving them. What if he brings something back with him? He's not infected, Lisa snapped. He's connected. Captain Ruiz entered then, her face unreadable. "The Varel ship just sent a message," she said. "Short, encrypted, took us hours to decode." She paused. "They say the Echo is awake. The hunter stirs." No one spoke for a long moment. Later, alone in the archive room, Lisa and Daniel dug through classified files. Most were locked, but Lisa had clearance for old bio-research projects. She typed in a few codes and a folder appeared. Project Echo. Classified. Decommissioned. "All records supposed to be purged," Lisa murmured. Inside were grainy photos of infants in medical pods, genetic charts, and a list of names. One stood out: Subject Delta 7, born 2184. Location Titan Colony Medical Bay. Parents unknown. Status: transferred to Earth foster care after shuttle accident. Daniel's breath caught. That was him. The note said, implanted with ancestral memory fragments from recovered off-world artifacts. Goal: enhance spatial reasoning and stress adaptation in deep space colonists. Success rate 3%. Survivors 2. "You were part of an experiment," Lisa said softly. "They put alien memories into human babies. You're not just human, Daniel. You're a vessel." He felt sick. All his life, the strange dreams, the sense of not belonging, they weren't imagination. They were real. And someone had put them there on purpose. Back in his quarters that night, Daniel sat on the floor, knees drawn to his chest. He wasn't angry. He was scared. What if the memories weren't just passive? What if they were waking up? As if in answer, a new image came, not a dream, but clear as daylight. A massive structure, black and smooth, floating in deep space. It pulsed once like a heartbeat. And it was calling to him. The next morning, Jalen stirred again. This time he was lucid. Through a translator drone, he spoke in broken standard. "You carry the old mind," he said. Eyes fixed on Daniel through the screen. "Not enemy. Not friend. Bridge." "Bridge to what?" Daniel asked. Jalen's voice trembled. "To what hunts minds?" Captain Ruiz called a meeting. Ryan argued for cutting all ties, returning to Earth immediately. Lisa insisted they had a duty to understand. Daniel stayed quiet until the end. "I think I know where it is," he said. "The source." "There's a place out past K-47B, a monolith. It's calling me." "How could you know that?" Ryan demanded. "Because it's in here." Daniel tapped his temple. "And it's been waiting a very long time." Captain Ruiz studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded. "We go. But carefully. And you stay under watch." As preparations began, Daniel stood at the observation deck watching the silent Varel ship. He didn't feel like a weapon. He didn't feel like a hero. He just felt like a man carrying a secret too big for one mind. But maybe that was the point. Maybe humanity wasn't meant to face the dark alone. Maybe they were meant to carry echoes so they'd never forget what came before, and never stop fighting for what came next. The Aurora Dawn turned its nose toward the unknown. And Daniel Brooks, the boy with borrowed memories, prepared to meet the truth waiting in the void. The Aurora Dawn moved slowly through the silent dark, its engines humming at low power. Ahead, past the misty veil of planet K-47B, space seemed to bend. Stars flickered oddly as if seen through warped glass. Daniel stood on the bridge, hands resting on the railing, watching the distortion grow. He didn't need instruments to know they were close. He could feel it in his bones, a deep rhythmic pull like a heartbeat echoing across time. Dr. Lisa Monroe stood beside him, arms crossed. "Your brainwaves have been syncing with that signal for the last 6 hours," she said quietly. "It's not just calling you. It's matching you," Daniel nodded. "It knows I'm coming." Captain Ruiz entered from the command deck, her expression tight. "We're receiving new data from long-range sensors. There's a structure out there. Not a ship. Not a station, just a monolith, black, smooth, no visible seams. It's about 3 kilometers tall." Ryan Holt, leaning against a console with his usual scowl, spoke up. "And you still think sending him out there is a good idea?" "I don't think we have a choice," Ruiz replied. Jalen confirmed it. "That thing is tied to the memories inside Daniel. If we turn back now, we'll never understand what happened or what's coming." Jalen himself had recovered enough to send one final message before his ship powered down again. He'd said, "The Echo is not a weapon. It is a warning. The hunter feeds on order, on clarity, on minds that think too neatly. Your kind, you are messy. That is your strength. No one fully understood what that meant. But Daniel did. Human minds were full of contradictions. Love and fear, logic and hope, memory and imagination tangled together. Maybe that chaos was the only thing that could confuse whatever was out there. Preparations began for a shuttle mission. Only Daniel would go. Lisa insisted on accompanying him, but Ruiz refused. If something goes wrong, I need you here to interpret what happens, she told her. You're the only one who understands his mind, so it would be just Daniel in a small scout shuttle named Wayfarer, equipped with basic life support, a neural recorder, and no weapons. If it wants to hurt you, a gun won't help, Ryan had muttered, handing him a comms badge. Just don't let it take you. As the shuttle detached from the Aurora Dawn, Daniel felt a strange calm. The fear was still there, but beneath it ran something else, recognition. Like he was finally going home, even though he'd never been there before. The monolith grew larger as he approached. It didn't reflect light. It swallowed it. Up close, its surface looked like liquid shadow, yet solid as stone. No doors, no markings, just silence. Then, without warning, a section of the surface rippled. A doorway formed, not by opening, but by simply becoming not there. An invitation. Daniel guided the Wayfarer inside. The interior was vast, empty, and warm. The walls glowed faintly with soft blue veins of light. In the center of the chamber floated a single object, a crystalline sphere, no bigger than a human head, pulsing gently. As soon as he stepped out of the shuttle, memories flooded him, not as flashes but as full experiences. He saw a civilization older than stars. They weren't warriors. They were scholars, artists, dreamers. They built gardens in nebulae and sang songs that shaped planets. But then came the hunter, a being without form, without name, that drifted between galaxies, feeding on coherent thought. It didn't kill bodies. It erased minds, left empty shells that walked but never dreamed again. The ancient race tried to fight. But the more ordered their thoughts, the easier they were to consume. In desperation, they scattered their knowledge, their memories, their very souls into the DNA of young species across the cosmos. They became seeds of memory, hoping one day a mind would grow strong enough and strange enough to resist the hunter. Humans were one of those seeds. Daniel fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. It wasn't sadness. It was understanding. The dreams, the loneliness, the feeling of being out of place, they weren't flaws. They were purpose. The sphere drifted toward him. He reached out contact. This time there was no pain. No scream, just a deep, quiet voice in his mind, gentle, sorrowful, grateful. You are the echo that remembers. Images poured into him. Star maps, frequencies, patterns of thought that could shield a mind from the hunter. Not by hiding, but by being too complex to digest. Human emotion, grief, joy, doubt, love, created mental static, a kind of noise the hunter couldn't process. The ancient race hadn't wanted to be reborn. They just wanted someone to carry the warning. And the weapon, because the real weapon wasn't memory, it was feeling. Back on the Aurora Dawn, alarms blared. Lisa stared at her screen in horror. "Something's coming!" she shouted. Massive energy signature, off the scale. "It's not a ship, it's..." A wave, Captain Ruiz barked orders. "Raise shields." "Full retreat!" But it was too late. Space itself seemed to ripple. Stars dimmed. A cold, hollow silence spread across the comms. Crew members on the bridge clutched their heads, eyes wide with terror. One by one they went still, breathing but empty. Ryan grabbed Lisa's arm. "What's happening?" "The hunter," she whispered. "It's here." On the view screen, a shape formed in the void, not solid, not light, but a distortion like a tear in reality. It pulsed once and another crewman collapsed, mind gone. Then a signal crackled over the comms. It was Daniel. His voice was calm, but layered, human, yet echoing with something far older. "Don't fight it with logic. Fight it with noise, with memory, with everything messy and loud inside you." Lisa understood. She ran to the ship's main comm array. Broadcast everything. Personal logs, music, childhood stories, anything emotional. Flood the network with human noise. Crew members who still had their minds scrambled to comply. A song played over the speakers, lullabies, rock tunes, a child's voice reading a poem. Personal messages from home filled the channels. Laughter, crying, arguments, confessions, all of it blasted into space like a wall of sound. The distortion in the void shuddered. It recoiled, confused. At that moment, Daniel's shuttle shot out of the monolith. He wasn't alone. Jalen's ship powered up beside him, joining the broadcast with Varel harmonics, structured, yes, but woven with their own form of emotional resonance. Together, human chaos and Varel harmony created a psychic storm the hunter couldn't swallow. With a final, silent ripple, the entity vanished, retreating into the deep dark. For now. On the Aurora Dawn, the crew slowly came back to themselves, dazed but whole. Daniel guided his shuttle back into the bay. When the hatch opened, Lisa ran to him. He looked exhausted, but his eyes were clear. "You did it," she said. "No," he replied softly. "We did, all of us. The ones who remember. The ones who feel." Captain Ruiz approached, her face grim but proud. "Whatever that thing was, it won't forget us now." Daniel looked out the viewport at the stars. The monolith was gone, vanished as if it had never been. But the knowledge remained. Humanity wasn't just exploring the galaxy, they were protecting it. The Aurora Dawn limped through space, its systems flickering, its crew shaken, but alive. The silence after the hunter vanished was heavier than any noise. No cheers, no relief, just the hum of engines and the quiet breathing of people who had stared into the end of thought and lived. Daniel sat in the medical bay, wrapped in a thermal blanket, staring at his hands like they belonged to someone else. He could still feel the echo of the ancient voice in his mind, not loud but steady like a second heartbeat. Lisa checked his vitals for the third time that hour. "Your neural activity is stabilizing," she said, but her eyes were worried. "But it's not going back to normal. It's changing." Daniel nodded. "I know, it's not just memories anymore. It's part of me now." Captain Ruiz entered, her uniform torn at the shoulder, her face lined with exhaustion. "Jalen's ship is hailing us," she said. "They want to speak with you alone." Daniel stood slowly. His legs felt weak, but his mind was sharp, sharper than ever. He followed Ruiz to the comms room. On the screen, Jalen appeared, his iridescent skin duller than before, his eyes tired but clear. "You faced the Unmaker," Jalen said, his voice soft in their minds. "And you did not break." "The Unmaker?" Daniel asked. "That is what we call it. The Eater of Minds. It has hunted our kind for cycles beyond counting. We thought we were the last to remember, but you carry the first memory." Daniel swallowed. "Why me? Not why you?" "Why humanity? Your species feels too deeply. You dream in contradictions. You love and fear the same thing. That noise, it confuses the Unmaker. It cannot feed on chaos." Lisa stepped forward. "So we're immune?" "No," Jalen said. "Not immune, but resistant. And now that it has tasted your signal, it will return. Stronger. Hungrier. It will bring silence to every ordered mind in this galaxy, unless someone stands against it." Daniel looked at Ruiz. "What do we do?" "We survive," she said simply. "And we warn Earth." But as they prepared to jump back toward human space, new readings appeared on the long-range sensors. Not one signal, dozens, then hundreds. Faint, scattered pulses like heartbeats waking up across the void. Lisa's eyes widened. They're responding to Daniel's broadcast. Other echoes. Other seated minds. Jalen's image flickered. The first memory is calling its children. "You are not alone." Daniel closed his eyes. He could feel them now. Distant minds, half awake, confused, reaching out. A child on a desert world dreaming of oceans. A scientist on a frozen moon hearing music and static. A pilot in deep space seeing cities in the stars. All of them carrying fragments of the same lost race. All of them human, or nearly so. "They need guidance," Daniel said. "They don't know what they are." "And if the Unmaker finds them first?" Ryan asked, arms crossed in the doorway. "It'll wipe them clean before they even understand." Ruiz made her decision fast. "We don't go straight home. We find them. One by one. We wake them up gently. We teach them how to shield their minds. And we build a network. Not of weapons, but of noise. Of feeling." It was a dangerous plan. Slower, riskier, but necessary. Their first stop was a mining colony near the Helios belt. A young woman named Mara had been having seizures, visions of a silver forest. A language with no sound. Local doctors called it psychosis. Daniel knew better. He met her in a quiet room, no tech, no monitors. Just two people sitting across from each other. He didn't touch her. He just spoke. "You're not crazy," he said. "You're remembering. Tears filled her eyes. I thought I was broken. No, he said. You're a bridge. Like me. He taught her how to let the memories flow without drowning in them. How to wrap her thoughts in layers of human emotion, anger, joy, doubt, so the Unmaker couldn't latch on. By the time they left, Mara could hold the echo without fear. Next was a research outpost orbiting Neptune. A man named Eli had been painting the same strange symbol for years, a spiral with 7 points. He didn't know why. Daniel recognized it instantly. A map of the first city now dust. Eli joined them willingly. His mind was calm, steady, but full of quiet sorrow. He added a new kind of noise to their growing shield. Not loud, but deep, like ocean waves. Word began to spread through hidden channels. Not official, not public, just whispers among those who dreamed too much, who felt too much. They came forward slowly, cautiously. A teacher in Jakarta, a fisherman in Alaska, a musician in Lagos, all carrying the same ancient spark. Lisa recorded everything. She found patterns in their brainwaves, harmonies in their emotional responses. Together, they were creating something new. A living defense made of stories, songs, and shared fear. But the Unmaker was listening too. One night, as the aurora dawn drifted near the edge of the Oort cloud, the lights dimmed. The comms went silent. A cold pressure filled the air like the universe holding its breath. Daniel felt it first. A pull at the edges of his mind, smooth, hungry. It's testing us, he whispered. Lisa activated the noise protocol instantly. Music flooded the ship. Lullabies, protest songs, wedding vows, children's laughter. Mara and Eli joined in from their quarters, broadcasting their own emotional signatures. The pressure lessened. The lights returned, but it was a warning. The Unmaker was learning. Adapting. Jalen sent a final message before his ship vanished into deep space. You have bought time. Use it well. The next time it will not be so easily turned away. Daniel stood on the observation deck watching the stars. He wasn't just Daniel Brooks anymore. He was a node in a growing web of awakened minds, a guardian of memory, a maker of noise, and he knew with quiet certainty that the real fight hadn't even begun. But for the first time, he didn't feel alone somewhere out there. Hundreds of echoes were waking up, and they were ready to scream back. The Unmaker returned not with a whisper, but with silence. It came without warning, swallowing starlight as it moved. One moment, the edge of human space was quiet. The next, entire colonies went dark, not their lights but their minds. Ships floated dead in orbit, crews alive but empty, eyes open and unseeing. The silence spread like frost across glass. On the Aurora Dawn, alarms never sounded. There was no explosion, no beam of energy. Just a sudden crushing weight in the air, and then stillness. Captain Ruiz clutched her head, her thoughts fraying at the edges. Ryan Holt fell to his knees, gasping as if drowning in air. Even Lisa, shielded by weeks of training, felt her memory slipping like sand through her fingers. Only Daniel remained clear. He stood on the bridge, eyes closed, breathing slow and deep. Around him the crew trembled, but he held firm. He wasn't fighting the silence. He was filling it. In his mind he reached out, not with words but with feeling. He sent grief for the lost, joy for the sunrise over Earth, anger at injustice, hope for a child's first step. He wove them together into a storm of human noise, raw and messy and alive. And then he called the others. Across the galaxy, the awakened echoes answered. Mara in the Helios belt sang a lullaby her grandmother never taught her. Eli painted a new symbol in the air with his mind, 7 points now glowing. A teacher in Jakarta recited poetry in a dead language. A fisherman in Alaska remembered the taste of his father's stew. A musician in Lagos played a song that didn't exist yet, but would. Their thoughts joined Daniel's, not in perfect harmony, but in beautiful chaos. Laughter mixed with tears. Doubt tangled with courage. Love clashed with fear. It was a symphony no logical mind could follow, and that was the point. The Unmaker recoiled. It had expected order, clarity, minds it could peel open like fruit. Instead, it found a hurricane of feeling too wild to consume. For the first time in eons, it hesitated. That was all Jalen needed. From the void, the Varel fleet emerged, not with weapons, but with song. Their telepathic voices wove through the human noise, adding structure without rigidity, harmony without control. They didn't fight the chaos. They danced with it. Daniel opened his eyes. On the view screen, the distortion that was the Unmaker pulsed once violently, then began to unravel. It wasn't destroyed, it couldn't be, but it was confused, overwhelmed, and in that moment of weakness it fled, retreating into the deepest dark, where even echoes couldn't reach. Silence returned, but this time, it was peaceful. One by one, the crew of the Aurora Dawn blinked back to themselves. Ruiz touched her temple, dazed. What just happened? Lisa, tears streaming down her face, whispered, "We won." Ryan stood slowly, looking at Daniel with something new in his eyes. Not suspicion, but awe. "You didn't beat it with force," he said. "You drowned it in us," Daniel nodded. "It couldn't eat what it couldn't understand." In the days that followed, messages poured in from across human space. Colonies that had gone silent came back online. Ships reported strange dreams, sudden clarity, a feeling of being watched over. The echoes were spreading, not as a secret, but as a quiet truth. People began sharing their visions openly. Art changed. Music deepened. Children spoke of stars they'd never seen. The Varel sent a final message, not through comms, but through Jalen himself, who appeared on the Aurora Dawn's bridge in person, his form shimmering with quiet pride. "You have done what we could not," he said, his voice gentle in their minds. "You did not hide from the dark. You filled it with light of your own making." He bowed low, a gesture the Varel reserved for equals. Then he turned to Daniel. "The Conquered offers you a place among us, not as a guest, as a guardian." Daniel looked at his crew, at Ruiz, who had trusted him when no one else would, at Lisa, who had believed in his mind when it frightened everyone else, at Ryan, who had guarded him even while doubting him. "I belong here," he said, "with them." Jalen smiled, though he had no mouth. "Then we will walk together, not as separate species, but as one shield." The Aurora Dawn turned toward home, not to hide, not to forget, but to prepare, because the Unmaker would return. It always did, but now it would find more than just humans waiting. It would find a galaxy learning to feel together, a network of minds, human, Varel, and others yet unknown, linked not by logic, but by shared memory, shared fear, and shared hope. Daniel stood at the observation window as Earth's blue curve appeared on the horizon. He no longer saw himself as broken or strange or a mistake of an old experiment. He was part of something larger. A legacy not of conquest but of care. Back on Earth, no parades were held, no medals awarded. The truth was too big for headlines, too fragile for politics. But in quiet rooms, in schools, in homes, people began to listen. To their dreams, to their hearts, to the whispers in the static. And slowly, the human race changed. Not all at once. Not perfectly. But they began to remember that they were never alone. That their messiness was their strength. That their tears, their laughter, their stubborn hope, they were weapons against the dark. Daniel never asked for this role, but he accepted it. Because someone had to carry the echo, and someone had to make sure it was never silenced again.